Yo guys, so this is actually my second time recording this video. I had it all done and ready to go, but decided to take a different approach later. So, One Piece. Full live action trailer is officially out. And does it look better than it did in the first trailer? Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't trust Netflix and I don't trust Hollywood. Why would I? They have a mountain of dog shit sticking up their entire backyard. Not just in terms of anime adaptations, but in terms of adaptations in general, especially over the last 10 years. I mean, remember how glorious Phase 1 of Marvel was? Anyway, I know what you're thinking. Well, I don't trust Netflix and Hollywood either, but I trust Oda, and he's involved. And you're right, that is a good thing. But this is Hollywood. And even with the apparent negotiating that Oda and Shueisha did to make sure Oda had input, now some people say input, some people say involved, some people say supervised. I mean, he's listed as executive producer, but we all know that doesn't mean shit. That don't mean anything. They tag that on to anyone. Because at the end of the day, I'm always skeptical as to how much actual input they allowed him. I'm sure they definitely weren't happy about him being more involved than they would have originally wanted, and I don't doubt that they were thinking, nah, we're still gonna get away with what we want. He doesn't know how things work around here and we're Hollywood. And that's true. Hollywood is a completely different beast, and Oda isn't a director or a producer. He's a manga artist and has to put a lot of his trust in others in this regard, right? This is not his world, especially if he's working through interpreters. I mean, I have no idea how good his English is. And, obviously if he was amazing in English, he would have a little bit of a better command of being able to express what he wants and all that kind of stuff. And there's a bit of cultural understanding that comes too when you have another language. Like, you understand a bit more about the culture that language comes from when you can actually speak it really well. Anyway, I mean, this isn't Kubo and Studio Pierrot. For one, it's live action, not animated. And two, Studio Pierrot has been the studio that animated Bleach from the beginning. They clearly respect Kubo and his work, and he's one of their own. Literally in the fact that they're all Japanese. So there are no cultural issues, they understand how everything works, there's no language barriers, nothing. Plus, anime and manga have been intertwined with each other for decades. You see less of that connection with Japanese live action remakes, which often tend to be crap as well. I mean, heck, just ask Shinichiro Watanabe about having involvement in regards to Cowboy Bebop, right? That was his baby, he created that, and yeah, we all know how that went. I mean, apparently there's a letter penned by Oda himself saying that he stands by it. But what is he supposed to say? That it's crap or that he's disappointed? I mean, assuming he was, not saying that's true. For one, there is no way they allowed him to get that out, especially before the thing even airs, because that would ultimately tank it. Literally anything from Oda that wasn't absolute praise would destroy any hopes for this adaptation. Think about it. We're talking about the highest grossing manga series of all time, by far. And this is not a knock on the top 10 manga series. They've sold insane amounts of manga. It's just that One Piece is on a completely different level. Also, Oda being a Japanese person, they don't dunk on things as we do in the West or in America in particular. Even criticism tends to be polite, even though they're actually saying it's shit. Again, he didn't say this, but if he did, it would likely be not as scathing as we tend to be about these kind of things. Lots of people, reactors in particular, are focusing on how it looks, and yes, that's important, but for me, that's not it. Yeah, how they look is important, of course, but if they look like the characters but don't act like the characters, then we have a problem. Back in 2021, there was a character explanation sheet, I guess you could call it, for casting. And of course, it may have changed since then, but there were some things that made the red flags go up immediately when I read it, in particular for Luffy and Zoro. So it was like, Luffy has big dreams and seeks adventure, yet also has a desire for whatever treasures he can get his hands on. His enthusiasm and refusal to budge against the corrupt system clinging to the past starts a legacy with his quest to create change. But first, he must defeat enemies from the past and present. Luffy has never been fundamentally about creating change. He just wants to find One Piece, become the Pirate King, and live his life with his people. He also happens to be a good person and doesn't like seeing innocent people get taken advantage of or hurt. Hell, he doesn't like seeing bad people get unnecessarily hurt. So when he sees it, he does something about it. That's fundamentally it. He's not trying to stick it to the man and change the world. It just so happens that when he's doing these things, it tends to create change. But that wasn't his intended purpose. He was just, I'm here, that's wrong, let me do something about it. Then there's Zoro, which is described as a skilled fighter that's in need of encouragement and direction, getting by with passionless and questionable work. Zoro has never needed encouragement and direction. From the beginning of the series, he's had one goal: to become the strongest swordsman in the world. In fact, one of the things that attracted Luffy to him was the idea, of course, that the Pirate King would have the greatest swordsman on his crew. Like, of course, right? I mean, I guess you could say His pirate hunting could be seen as passionless, questionable work, but the man knows where he wants to go, which of course is the kind of the joke with him. He knows what direction he wants his life to go in, but then literally has the worst sense of direction and gets lost all the time. I remember Nami's being pretty good. Usopp's was okay, except they described him as a romantic, which is clearly Sanji. But then again, this all may have changed. So yeah, it's really going to come down to the characters actually being the characters for me. Also, I'm curious as to what the long-term plan is. Is everyone willing to invest at least 10 years into this? Assuming it does well. Nothing on Netflix has that many seasons and is an original series. Even with combining events and or dropping certain events, this is going to take at least 10 years to finish. You factor in that Netflix releases new seasons every 1 to 2 years, and that makes it really difficult. Hell, 10, 15 years. Are they just going to end on a random point? I mean, this is of course assuming it's not canceled. I mean, anyway, that's really it. What do you guys think?